a 12 years old girl who is excited to leave the home for studies. Yes, this can happen. Growing up with five siblings and being the younger one with full of attentions and love always felt the gratitude of being alive. Yes, I had to leave the house and parents for better studies cause I had to go 3 to 4 kilometers to take tuitions at the age of 10, and the schools in our village wasn't offering any promising future at that time. And mostly seeing my other siblings leave for studies and being in boarding schools, it was very normal for me to wait for my turn. But after a few months, I realized how hard it is to live without your parents. At that young age, I faced so many difficulties, especially coping up with the change in societies. It was very hard for me, and slowly I stopped going school, which was a real headache for my elder sister, with whom I was living for my whole school years. Slowly, I closed myself and started to find the peace and happiness within myself. And just like that, I survived. Yes, I survived entire school years, which wasn't all so bad because of the few friends I had at that small town. I really missed them sometimes. But in these years, while growing up, I had learned a lot of things about life. At the same time, unknowingly, my mental health started to decrease. After completing school, I came back home because I had to find a good college, so spent few months at home. I started to lose the control over everything, which made me mental health and my physical health worse. And eventually, I ended up getting admission in a well reputed college in the neighboring district, which I did not even visited before. Then I shifted to a hostel there where mostly I was a numb and fighting with her bad mental health 18 years old girl. Those years weren't easy enough. But thankfully, I survived again. In those 3 years of my college life, on and off, I stayed at home and at hostel because of my poor physical and mental health. At those years, I was hospitalized and visited doctors numerous times. But thankfully, I completed my bachelor degree on sociology with honors. Yes, I sometimes decided to not completing the degree, but eventually my abbu pursued me to complete it that. So yeah, after my graduation, my abbu ma planning to go to Hajj, so I did not had enough time to think too much and got admission in my home university, which was Kalyani at that time. Again, a totally unknown place which I had never visited and new people. But I managed to survive. Yes, I know my survival stings are really good at that point. Those 2 years were the most evolutionary years of my life so far at that point. I was thriving. I was thriving in that rooftop apartment in that peaceful neighborhood. I also encountered my religious enlightenment in those 2 years. I had learned how to live all alone, like totally alone. without anyone around me. Like, I used to live at that apartment, like the rooftop apartment, all alone. Sometimes there were no one on the lower floors too, but I loved that. I loved that stillness, I loved that silence, I loved that loneliness. I enjoyed that. I used that, and I literally carved myself. So I learned how to fall in love with the stillness and the art of self love. I found some really close people at that place too, who are still very precious to me. After those amazing 2 years, I shifted to Kolkata in my sister's apartment. When she was in United Kingdom with her family, her apartment was vacant. So I decided I will go and live there. I lived there for 9 or few months, and when my insomnia gotten worse and I wasn't able to sleep for 2 or 3 days in a row, my Abu asked me to move back home for some time. And I did not had any options cause I had started to collapsing mentally and physically. So decided to move back home. Yes, this is the apartment where I used to live. She is back now, so yeah. Then I decided to take 1 year's break from everything and spend time with my Abu and myself. The 1 year became 2 years because of the pandemic, and I found so because of the pandemic, my 1 year break became 2 years, and I found the most beautiful hobby of mine, which is gardening. I spent those 2 years in abundance. I gardened, grew my own food. I learned how to grow food, read a lot of books, and bought a lot of books, because of which I got into trouble with my mom. She always was to like scold me for reading so much, and my Abu was angry that I wasn't reading my subject books or my discipline books, and I'm reading just novels, fictions, self-help books, these things. So yeah, finally I again fell in love with books, made good foods for my family, took care of my parents and myself. My physical health and mental health became so good and connected to my soul. At that time, I lost two precious things. One is my first ever kitten, another one, and also much more bigger loss is my uncle, who was like my who was like my guardian angel, who loved me so much that I felt after my Abu, he is someone to whom I can ask anything and go whenever I feel like so puzzled. Then slowly reality hits. Pandemic got worse, and I realized my 1 year break become two. So I started to apply for MPhil and NET again to pursue my further studies. And with the grace of Allah, I got into Jadavpur University for my MPhil degree, which really was a miracle at that time. I will save the story for another day though. So, after the admission, it became hard for me to concentrate on my studies at my home. So, I decided to shift to Kolkata once more. I started to look for PG, hostels, and other shared accommodations, but soon I realized it will be hard for me to live like that, so I started to search for a suitable housemate instead. One day, I found a message in my Facebook asking whether I am looking for a housemate or not. I checked the profile and I became skeptical a little, but then we talked for 1 month and we became sure about being the flatmates, and she started to flat hunting for us, and I'm very much thankful for that. Then I shifted to the flat. We became close eventually, but it was also another different experience where I decided to share a house with someone unknown, someone I never met before. I admit that I wasn't very sure about the idea at that time, but I worked out and we became so close. We understood each other so well. So we shared a good chemistry. We shared a home for 1 year. So after 1 year, and she shifted to another city because of her work, I again started to search for someone, like some housemate or some place to move. And this time, one of my close friend's sister just shifted here in Kolkata. So we ended up deciding to live together. And after a week, she said that another common fellow of ours want to join us, and so we decided to live together, like we three. So we decided that we will live at my place, and yeah, we shifted together. At first it wasn't easy, so we had some differences and some problems, and eventually we learned how to live together. We understand that it's okay to have differences and it's okay to, get bothered by each other, but it's okay to live together too. So this was my almost 16 years living away from my home story, and all I can say is I have learned so many things in different phases of my life. I have grown so much